Hello. I'm really wanted to just pop in here real quick, um, because for some reason today I cannot um, comment on my videos for some reason. Um, I my inbox says I have comments, but I can't respond to them. So if you have um, commented and haven't gotten like a thumbs up at least or a response from me, that's why. It's really important for me to acknowledge I don't have a huge following. So, but even if I did, it would still be important to me to acknowledge someone who left a comment. Um, so what's weird is I can't, the same thing is happening with my TikTok account. I have likes and comments on my inbox, but they aren't reflected on my videos. And you may have noticed that I'm not exactly um, a crazy out there kind of person. So I'm guessing because it's both, it's something not to do with anything I did. Um, and um, and my videos are, especially my YouTube videos, are pretty tame. My TikToks, I'm a little more creative. Um, and I know the last one I put up had a little profanity in it, tiny bit, but it wasn't, I don't know. It had to do with Trump, so. But that doesn't explain why YouTube would be the same way. So I'm not really sure what the mechanism is that would cause it on both when, you know, I had no message or anything saying you've been blocked or whatnot. So I'm guessing it's something to do with without not have to do with me. And there goes my alarm. So my dog should be showing up here any minute. I don't have headphones on so I can hear it. When I have headphones on, I can't hear it. Sometimes I hear it and um I don't it, I hear it, but I don't, my brain doesn't acknowledge it. Unless of course my mom let him outside, which here he comes. Here he comes. Are you looking for me? Huh? He's he's down right between my legs here. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? I have to go take some medication. So he has the 10:30 medication, the bedtime medication. He doesn't really need the alarm anymore. He knows. when it's about 10:30. He'll show up at 10:25. One day he showed up with the treat canister. I don't know how he got it, but he came walking into the room with because the treats are by the meds. And that's how I trained him is we go over here and get a treat. That's all he's thinking. Um, but he also seems to know that he's supposed to wait until I'm done taking the medication and he's gotten his treat and then he can go. He's highly intelligent. It's very scary sometimes. And when he came in at like 10:25 with the treat thing, and he's like, hey, um, it was really kind of creepy. Um, and I don't know if put I did a video of him showing up. I think I put it up on here. I can't get one of him waking me up. Let me go do this before he gets impatient. Hold on. Okay. I'm sorry about that, but he'll wait and wait and wait. And he's done such a good job. I have to sure I let him know that and do what I'm supposed to do. I ran up down the stairs, so I'm out of breath. Um, I guess I should do maybe how I taught him. Um, how I taught him to do that. I can't get the one when he wakes me up because even though I get up and I get out of bed, I forget because I'm still half awake. Um, I got a video of him alerting to my indicator, and your indicator is something physically that you do when you're whatever your issue is. It could be anxiety, depression, um, schizophrenia. So, um, yeah, um, I they you first I anyway. He knows that if my head is in my hands or if I'm making crying noises to come and paw at me, to pull my hands away from my face and um, get my attention to um, take my focus off of whatever I'm upset about. But I should do videos on how I taught him those things because I did train him myself. Um, anyway, I'm sorry to hear that, Eric. Um, I don't really, I guess I would say, well, if you're saying hypomania, um, I guess I, for one thing, I would say, well, hopefully it doesn't climb into mania. I don't know how um, what your pattern is. Um, Sometimes I have hypomania. Oh, wait, let me go back to the dog thing. I did do a video of him indicating, but when I watched it, I didn't like the way I looked at it. I didn't like the way my clothes looked. Made me look dumpy. Anyway, sometimes I'll have hypomania and that it stays right there. And then sometimes not so much anymore, but in the past it would hang out in hypomania for a while and then climb into mania. Um, Now I tend to have hypomania and then go into mixed. So um, I don't get as much of that feel good anymore. Darn it. Just a lot of feel bad because then the irritability is there. And then after the irritability comes depression. But, but I have to say, um, I've had, as soon as I found out that the animal shelter was not like, I feel bad saying it, but thriving, they were not like they were having issues, I heard, since I left, and that made me feel a lot better. Not that I would wish anything bad for the animals, but the way they handled my situation, um, it is just disgusting as a human being. Um, so it was very hurtful. But when I heard that, and I finally broke down and looked at their Facebook page and stuff, and they thought all these wonderful things were going to happen when I left, and I'm like, no, you're you're going to have the same problems I did. So um, once I kind of let go of that, um, as long as I keep, as long as I have something to do that engages my brain. Um, Lately, I haven't had anxiety or depression. I had a tiny bout because somebody called wanting me to train their dog. And I was hoping nobody would because I discovered that the stress of trying to do that, um, or find a job or put me over the edge. It's too much. Um, and that I was doing really well without it. So I was just praying that nobody would call. But I don't know. This isn't a sure thing because the guy hasn't called back since I last saw him. And so I kind of hope he decides to not go through with it. Not that I wouldn't mind the money. It's just the stress, the social stress. Um, and he also gave me the impression that he was the type to um, think his way was the right way. Like what I would come in and say, well, this is what you need to do. So I don't feel like dealing with someone like that right now. Yes, I would. What would happen is I would not only be exhausted, the very next day I'd start being anxious about the next visit, which would be once a week. I would start stressing about the next visit that was 7 days away immediately. So, um, so do you have, Eric? Do you have like rapid cycling, um, or does that count as mixed when you go? See, I've heard people tell me a couple different things. My understanding is that a mixed episode is you have symptoms of both depression and mania at the same time, but I have heard people describe it as being up and then being down, what right after the other, but I understood that as rapid cycling or ultra rapid cycling. So I'm sorry to hear that. I have to, as you might guess, I need a checklist. I need to make a checklist to put on my computer right here. It tells me to make sure you have your water, check the time, um, so I don't have to walk away. My life is a checklist. Like, this is my day for me to remember everything, and I'm need to anyway. Just you won the Super Bowl. I When I'm manic, I I feel really good, but um when it's really high, I feel like and I think and I am very convinced that I am more intelligent than anybody I come across, that I have special insight and a special ability to read people. Um, that I'm above, and that there are only a very few select people that are really that high of a level of understanding human race. And so I walk around with a smile on my face and I laugh to myself at at people, like how stupid they are. And I'm like, oh, and it's a real bummer when you come down and you realize you're no better than everybody else. It really sucks. It's like, well, yeah, um, that definitely feels good. Um, being in that it's like a spiritual epiphany kind of thing, and of course the colors are brighter, and sound music to me becomes just crisper. I mean, it's like I hear every little part of the music and how it relates to the other parts. It's it's actually a very, as far as that goes, a very beautiful place to be in. I mean, being manic is not good for you, but when it comes to that, especially if you're a creative person, as long as like there's that magic place where you can produce stuff or have great ideas, and they're actually realistic, and you're very quick and on the ball and sharp. It's just that when they start to slide into not making any sense, um, but the whole time you think you're making complete sense, and no, but that's why nobody else gets it, because they just are so beneath you. That's why they don't get it. That's why they're looking at you like you're crazy. But in truth, they're looking at you like you're crazy because, well, at the moment you are. So, because mine, if I ever get that high, I definitely slide into, I mean, it's definitely delusional. And then I definitely slide into um, very unorganized, uh, psychotic type thinking and believing, and I become very secretive and paranoid. Um, that's not the fun part. I have when I have gone there, and still every once in a while, but I know what it is now, so it doesn't bother me. I have what I call the fifth member of the Beatles. I I think more like I'm like the best. I'm like super high intellectual. Um, and what was I gonna say? I lost it. Um, the disorganized. I know I was talking about the disorganized part. Oh, the radio. I start to hear the sound of a talk radio. That's the best way I can describe it. But it's like in another room. And so it's indistinct. But I know I'm hearing voices and I know it's a conversation, but I can't find it. And the first few times it happened, I would be looking all over the house for this radio. And it took a while for it to dawn on me that um, the radio was in my head. So every once in a while, when I hear indistinct conversations, I will, I'm like, I know what it is. So I just don't pay any mind to it. I can't hear anything distinct. It's not saying anything to me. That would have me definitely worried if it was like I had voices telling me stuff. I just can't. It was driving me bananas looking for that radio. And um, and it wasn't until later when the mixed episodes started to get more prominent. Um, that's when I would start to see shadows. Um, in the corner. And, and I thought they had come back, but it turned out to be these frames. Usually I wear wire frames, and the edge of these would, as I turn my head. But there have been times where I would see shadows out of the corner of my eye going by, or I don't know. And it was enough that I knew I saw it, and it would turn my head and there would be nothing there. And that again was something that I knew what it was, so it didn't bother me anymore. It wasn't, it was just a little distracting. It wasn't, um, didn't really affect me. Because it wasn't, it wasn't scary or anything. I mean, I didn't like the fact that I have a problem that makes that happen, but um, I don't see or hear anything when my mood is as normal as it can be. It's just manic and mixed, and both of them I can get really paranoid. Um, and secretive, and um, the paranoia is bad. That can be very unpleasant because I, at that point, I'm questioning everybody. Well, when I have to say that, you know, because the nature of what I talk about, people are going to say things that are like, I'm at the end of my rope kind of thing. And I'm really sorry that you feel that way, and I'm really feel for you that um, you're going through that. Um, I do know how it feels to not have things under control so you can just do your daily living. I do know how that feels, and how it feels to wonder if things might be better a different way. I'm being very careful with my words. Um, just that um, a lot of times those feelings are temporary, as in moments or days. Sometimes people can have a year that's miserable. Um, and my only advice I can give is do your best to take control of your own disorder. For example, um, if you don't think your mental health team that you have currently is working for you, maybe look into somebody else, or making sure that you are communicating with your mental health team that things are not going well. because they can't help you um, without knowing. Um, I know that with resistant situations, which I did have for quite a while, um, a while back, I had this one psychiatrist that actually got angry at me because I stayed depressed no matter what he did. And like he got annoyed with me. And that was, I mean, I can understand him feeling that way, but to let it show was very unprofessional. Um, I have fired many doctors. Um, so there's that. And as I had said in the other video, one thing that really helps me get back on track is the schedule, accounting for every moment something to do, because the less time you what is the word I want? See, mania is one thing, depression in mixed. I describe them as monsters, especially depression. Depression is, they're both, mania and depression are both monsters, but they have different goals. Depression is a monster, and its primary objective is to destroy you. That's what it's doing. That's what it wants to do. And it will tell you anything to keep you in that state and pull you further and further and further down and tighter into its grasp until it succeeds. And this monster, you have to see it for what it is. It, and that's what it is a monster. It's not, it's it's the disorder. It's not you. It's the disorder. You do not deserve what the monster depression is putting you through. And you have to do everything in your power to fight this monster and have as many helpers on your team as possible. And I know we all get isolated, especially with depression, but you need at least two people, your doctor and then that person that you can just cry with, and that's why I think pets are super awesome, not just because they distract us from our woes, but because and you feel like I have to stay alive to keep this creature alive and loved and cared for. It does that too. But it's also there for you to be real with, that person that is really you, but you hold on to because you don't want to get hurt, and you don't want, your doctor just wants to know about your symptoms and your meds, and they're not your therapist. And even this, if you don't have a human friend, if you can have some pet that doesn't care what that you're walking around in the same sweats and stuff. But there's another person to help you fight this monster, depression. And remember, its ultimate goal is your destruction. That's what it wants. That's what it's doing. That's what it's working on every minute. And every minute you give it is goes to his team. I call it a him. I don't know, but makes it monster makes me think of uh, not men, but a male presence. Mania is also a monster. But this monster wants to stay alive in you, take over you, and perpetuate and um, work at as much as possible less and less of you and more of it. And it wants the mania monster wants nothing more than to be the sole owner of your body and do all it wants to do. and, and you can just sit there and watch, and that's it. You have no more power. It's taken over. It's doing weird things that you normally would never do. It's saying things um and it's the same thing as much as you possibly can take control of your really it's time, your time. Don't let it have that time. But I actually think mania is harder to deal with because your mania is going to tell you that nothing's wrong. Everything is as it should be. So um, it's a liar. Uh, so is depression. But mania is a liar. You know, you're not the rock star. It's just telling you that and making you feel good, so you will keep it around. That's that's how I feel like I describe it inside of me. Um, and when when people do say things, it happens pretty frequently here. Comments and stuff. Um, and that somebody's feeling suicidal or something. I have to draw a line because I'm not a licensed health professional. I'm not a doctor, not a therapist. I'm just another person that has this problem. And that's when I have to say, if you are feeling that way, you need to go to the hospital, call a friend to be with you, call your doctor, etc., etc. Um, that's what I would say to anybody. So, stranger or not. So, yeah, I think the best treatment for depression and mania is a pet because even when you don't want to get up and live life for yourself, even if you just have a cat, not that there's anything wrong with cats, they just don't require as much. If you have a cat, you still have to get up and feed it and water it and clean out the litter box. Excuse me. And the more time you spend outside of yourself when you're depressed, the better. Yeah. It is tough. It is tough, especially when your thoughts are like going like molasses, or you feel, yeah, it is hard. It is really hard. And my phone, there was this one time for a whole year I was depressed, and it was that flat, there's a name for not being interested in anything. Anhedonia, I think. Um, you have no feelings for anything. That's that doesn't happen to me a whole lot anymore. But just briefly, but for a whole year I felt blank and I couldn't talk much and I was staring at the wall and like dazed. And then there have been times I've had the depression where I have the thoughts just spinning and spinning and spinning, negative, negative, negative thoughts. I think the catatonic type depression is harder to get out of because it's hard to just like stand up, get up out of a chair, you know. Um, and it's a struggle, but you have to struggle through it every day, even if it's just taking a shower and putting on clean clothes, even if you're saying the whole time, well, why? What does it matter? And then the depression where your thoughts are just spinning out of control. And that's when I think the like schedule for the day and comes in, because if you keep looking at that, okay, so now I am supposed to straighten up the kitchen, and you go into the kitchen and do that. Look at the card. Okay, now I'm supposed to do some laundry. And as long as you're doing things and not having to think of it here, so, it's here. This got me through this most recent um, depression, to focus on just everyday things. So um, it was hard to do it. I mean, it's nothing huge. It's shower, check my email, take my meds. It's nothing. I didn't put climb Mount Everest down there. So uh, either way, it's a struggle. I think that I used to, when I was first diagnosed for a long time, I would have really long hypomanias and manias, and then really long depressions, like weeks and months, more like months. And as time went on, it turned into like weeks. And now it might be at the longest a week. Like I'll have 5 days of this and a few days of that. And I think, and then just like do the whole thing over again. And I find this, I guess you would call rapid cycling, not ultra rapid, but rapid, more difficult much more difficult than the longer, um, mania and depression. I mean, when I was depressed, I would be able to say, okay, I know this is going to end, but I don't know how long it's going to be. It could be a really long time. But doing this for any amount of time is exhausting. So I would say that rapid cycling has got to be the most exhausting type, being flung up and down. Yeah. Um, I really, all I can do right now is sympathize. It is, that's what I was doing for a while until just very recently. Well, thank you. I hope they do. I don't get a whole lot of viewers, but I don't mind that because I think that most people who are looking because they have bipolar. Um, I'm not like here for entertainment, except for my TikToks that they're a little entertaining, I guess. Um, but I like people to feel like they have, there's someone that's been through it, you know, and and any tips I can give or encouragement um, I can give, that just makes my day. That's why I make the videos, because I know that not everybody, I mean, you can have people in your life that know, but they don't know, you know, and you can have nobody know. You could just have nobody. And so I think it's important to support and resource for some people if they need to find some information out or just some support, or know that somebody else has been through or is going through these problems and made it out to the other side. That's my biggest thing, is that it's a sucky disorder. Nobody knows what it's really like unless you have it for real. And I think only a person like that can understand what you're going through. I mean, when I'm irritable, like I'm having a mixed irritable, it is so hard to explain to somebody, I don't want to be this way. I don't want to yell at people. I don't want to break things. I don't want to throw things. I don't want this. I have no control over it. Um, it's a terrible state of mind. The tension is just overwhelming. And I don't think anybody can really understand that except people that have actually felt it. Um, and the same is with the depression. I think mania is a little bit easier to describe. Um, and sometimes people have um, they really just want the best. Yeah, I hear that mixed episodes are the most dangerous. Um, yeah, depression is more. It depends on. I I feel like there's two kinds of depressions. There's the like catatonic depression, where like your mind is blank and you're not really at too big a risk at that point for anything serious because you're so empty. I mean, like literally, there's nothing there. Um, and then there's the depression where you're, and I think this might be more of a mixed version of depression where your mind is constantly going and going and going about how horrible you are and how horrible your life is and um, there's super negative stuff and it just won't go away. I think that's the most, that depression is the most dangerous, especially if you can't sleep and that's all you hear. And I know, um, yeah, um, I did too, actually. Um, my I actually see a nurse practitioner. My doctor decided to do inpatient, but she calls those mood enhancing events where you may have been going into a mood or something and something happens and it sort of amplifies that mood. And I had I had a fiance leave me because he was not on board with my like when I was diagnosed and the problems I was having. He was not ready to deal with that. Um, and so that was a pretty shitty thing to do. And yeah, I was very like howling depressed. But that's it. I think events are different than unless you were already in a mood to. Because over time, I'm like, well, now I'm like, well, obviously it wasn't somebody who was willing to do the in sickness or in health. So I'm glad I didn't marry him. So, um, but the depression where I haven't had it in a while, but my mind would be, you know, just you suck, everything sucks. Um, Nobody loves you, and just over and over and over, and you can't sleep, and that's all you're getting from your brain. Um, I think that's the most dangerous or horrible place to be. But I think that counts as a mix because you're having the um, where you can't stop thinking the thoughts, rapid thoughts, but they're negative in nature. Um, I will actually have euphoric depressions where I'm depressed, but it's like a romanticism about it, start to get into. I used to be when I was a teenager, a death rocker, which is kind of a goth from the 90s. Get into these depressions where it's kind of warped and um, find myself in looking at cemeteries and just sort of nihilistic thoughts, but um, and romantic thoughts about death and stuff. That was kind of a dangerous place to be too. But I've only had a few of those. They're really kind of strange. So, let's see. Um, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this now. I wasn't really expecting to be on here this long, but as long as there's people to listen to what I have to say. So, um, well, I wish you all well, be safe, and I will talk to you later. Bye.